Welcome to the first episode of Not From Concentrate, a food podcast for busy brains. I'm Catherine Smart, a writer, a recipe developer, and a food entrepreneur. And like many creatives, I have ADHD. So I'm on a mission to help anyone with a busy brain spark creativity, calm the chaos, and find joy in the kitchen.
This could happen to you. This could happen to you. This could happen to you.
I wanted to take a moment to tell you about the Not From Concentrate newsletter on Substack. Subscribe for free to stay up to date on new episodes and get access to giveaways and bonus content. I also want to give a special shout out to my paid subscribers who get new, wildly delicious and distraction-proof recipes delivered to their inboxes every month, as well as essays and tips for cooking with a busy brain. Plus, paid subscribers get access to my full recipe archive. Head to catherinesmart.com to become a free or paid subscriber, and thank you for supporting the show. Today, I'm chatting with Rose Hattabaugh, my former colleague and a recipe developer and tester at Christopher Kimball's Milk Street. Rose has this incredibly warm, sassy, wise vibe, which is why I, and I'm sure so many still at Milk Street, see her as a kind of sage sister mom. I thought she'd be the perfect person to talk to as we head into Thanksgiving and the holiday season in general. She's going to give us advice on surviving hosting. She's going to talk about tackling holiday baking and share insights on everything from feeding kids to cooking as an empty nester. There is really something for cooks at all life stages in this episode. I also really wanted to hear about what it was like for her to follow her career ambitions and land at Milk Street, finding her place there in her 50s. She spent many years as a stay-at-home mom to her 4 children, and having a food career was a lifelong dream that she made happen. So I'm so excited to catch up with Rose and for you to hear everything she has to share with us. So let's jump in. Rose, welcome to Not From Concentrate.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for asking me.
I'm so excited that you're here. You're one of my favorite people at Milk Street, both in real life, back when we met, back when I was teaching there and on the TV show. And then I love to watch your cooking videos. And this is going to be tricky because I want to do 2 things on this interview. I want to talk about you and, you know, your insights and your kind of career path, but also Thanksgiving is coming up. And like, you're my Thanksgiving expert. So going to be a little bit, we're going to jump around a little bit because I want to hear from you. And then I want to hear about Thanksgiving. And then also, of course, what you guys are doing over at Milk Street, because I lived through 4 Milk Street Thanksgivings. And I know that a lot of good work goes into everything that comes out of those kitchens. And so I'm going to ask you first, like, insider secrets about that too. Does that all work for you?
Yes, that sounds great.
Tester at Milk Street, and you're also on camera talent now. One of the things, I had a pretty young, I guess I only had 1 child back then. I think I might have been pregnant with my second, and you were so like fun and affirming and wonderful because you have 4 children and you know, been through it. And I just felt like whenever I was feeling downtrodden about anything motherhood, and you were just such a breath of fresh air.
Well, that's sweet of you to say.
But you've had kind of an interesting second act here. You know, you were home raising 4 children, and I would love to hear a little bit about how you ended up at Milk Street and doing what you're doing.
Well, I started out, you know, when I went to college, I started out as a theater major. And after a year, I decided, you know what, this is just not for me. So I switched to television production and did that for just a little while, but then started doing corporate events, which I really enjoyed. So I would do video in that, you know, in corporate event stuff. And then I just stopped working to raise my kids. So I have 4 kids and my husband traveled a lot, so I couldn't really work. But I love to cook always. Cooked every meal. Was always baking. I actually started a little baking business on the side at my house. When one of my youngest kid was in middle school, I went to the bakery down the street, which was the best bakery in our area, and said, look, I'm not classically trained, but I can do this. I know I can do it. So she gave me a job. Then I was pastry chef at another restaurant. But when I saw that Chris was doing something new, when you're home with kids, you watch a lot of that stuff if you love to cook. You're always watching Channel 2 or you're watching the Food Network and you're just trying new things. And I always thought, like, I want to work for him. And when I found out that he was doing something new, I volunteered at the cooking school with Rosie Gill and did that for a little while. And then at some point they were desperate for someone in the kitchen. I said, I can do it. So they brought me in the kitchen. And then a few years later, someone asked if I wanted to do the social media videos. They said, oh, just try it. You don't have to, if you don't like it, we won't use it. So I did that. And then they invited me to be on the show. So this is all happening while I'm 50 something years old. I'm about to be 65 in January. I remember I went to one of those mothers groups where what happens when your kids leave. And they were talking about, what do you want to do? What kind of things do you want to take you into the next couple of decades? And she said, write down the craziest thing that you could think of. And I wrote in this notebook, I want to do food television. And I completely forgot about that. And then after about a year of doing it, I thought, well, I manifested that like pretty late in my life to make that happen. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. But I say this to my kids all the time, like, you have to move in the direction and good things will happen. So that's how I ended up here. And so here I am.
That's incredible. And it's a good reminder because, I just turned 40. I'm writing a cookbook and doing this podcast. I thought it was going to happen for me in my 20s, which is silly. But, it's been 20 years of kind of plugging away. I mean, when I got on Milk Street, that was like a huge thing because I had spent 10 years prior to the first season of Milk Street taking the Chinatown buses to New York City. And like I auditioned for every season of Food Network Star, every season of The Taste. And I was starting to think like, oh, it's not going to happen. It happened. It was a wonderful experience. But then I left and it's just been such a zigzaggy path. And at 40, I sometimes feel like, oh, is it too late for me? Like I see all these young gun influencers on TikTok and I'm like, is this good? And so it's always wonderful to talk to women, who've been around the block and are still pursuing and accomplishing things that they've wanted to do.
Yeah. And I also think we have something to offer. It's not, there are a lot of young influencers now, but we have life experience. And I think that's important. Even just, when I'm developing a recipe, there's people who work with me who never had children. But I'm always thinking like, when I'm making this, do I want to take out 10 bowls to do it? No, I don't, because I'm not going to have time. Or, you think about things a different way when you have that kind of life experience, I think. And I'm sure you see that too when you're working with younger people.
Definitely. And I think about even myself, like if I had these opportunities in my 20s, I wouldn't have had the two things that pop out the most are like my knowledge as a mom and then my knowledge as I ran a food startup for 7 years. So like whether it's business experience or parenting experience, I'm like, I don't know that I would have been able to I don't know how well I would have handled those opportunities if they were handed to me before I had that sort of experience. So, And I think that's one of the reasons, of course, I wanted to have you on was you do have this very particular perspective having raised, and is it all no, you have one daughter and
I have a daughter.
Boys, is that right?
I have a daughter and 3, and I have a granddaughter now. I have a grandbaby.
Your grandmother. That's amazing. How has becoming a grandmother changed the way that you're cooking or thinking about food? Like, what has that chapter brought into your food life?
Well, unfortunately, they live in another state, so it's hard to see her as much as I'd like. But, I am always thinking about the things I used to make for her mother when she was young and, the kinds of foods they liked when they were little. So just kind of, it's a little nostalgic, brings you back a little bit when you have this new baby in your life. But I'm going to see them at Thanksgiving, so I'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, it's, just cooking for them. Food is love. That's what it's all about.
What are you going to cook for them on Thanksgiving?
I don't know about you. Do you do Thanksgiving?
I used to, for a handful of years, I private chefed crazy gig. It was like a 10-day gig, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for this big family. Sometimes we'd go to Florida. Sometimes we'd be here. And then I was always waiting tables. And now I tend to go to either we alternate between like my cousin's house, my mom's house, sometimes my husband's parents. So I've done it a couple times, but mostly only professionally.
I'm going to say that's lucky you. It's a nice holiday. I love the idea. But I think preparing Thanksgiving dinner, if you're doing it by yourself, is a beast of a meal, I have to say. Even for someone, I cook all day, every day, and I always find it completely overwhelming. Like you can do whatever it is you do, wash every single dish, and then the meal is over and you turn around and the whole place looks like a bomb. But I think everyone really looks forward to it. So then you have to do all the stuff. I always want to make everything from scratch. So I'm making rolls and I'm making pie dough. And for years, I would kind of do that like the day before. And this year, my goal with, because I think, fingers crossed, I think all of my adult children, which live all in different states except for one, will maybe be able to make it. So if that happens, I want to have as much done ahead so that I can spend time with them too. So I'm always thinking of that calculation in my head. But everybody likes the traditional stuff. It was, I'm an Italian girl, so would I rather be making homemade raviolis? Probably. But everybody likes the turkey, so we'll do that. But, pie, pumpkin, apple. I always do homemade rolls. There's always a potato, always a squash. And I think it's important to always have a really great salad. I don't know about you, but
Whenever you're hosting, I feel like it's such a balance of like, oh, you want to make all the food and make it delicious, but you want to spend time. And then I think Thanksgiving, there's just so much added pressure. I mean, yours sounds like the epitome of that because you're like, my children are all over the country. I want to spend time with them. So I know like, I think there is an element of like just accepting that is going to be a piece of the puzzle and no one has a magic answer. But I'm curious if you have any tips or things that you've learned or things that you're going to try to reduce that pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, again, make ahead as much as you can. I always try to make pie doughs even a few weeks ahead and freeze them because trying to make pie dough the day before or something is a nightmare. This year, I always would make these rolls that my kids wanted. And I always thought, oh, well, they've got to be like shaped and proofed the morning of. And now I'm like, what was I thinking? Now that I work here, I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm going to shape them, freeze them, and then just let them rise and throw them in the oven. Because that's always a huge anxiety provoking thing for me, these rolls. And I feel like I can't buy them now because everyone's like, hey, make the rolls. I'm like, all right, make the rolls.
I could commiserate with my mom. She makes something called squash rolls, which were like her grandmother's recipe. And it's like a canned squash thing. But yeah, we all go bananas for them. Although I will say, I think she has started, sometimes a friend of hers who sometimes comes did learn the recipe. So she sometimes brings them, which is sweet. But when she doesn't, my mom has now, she just bakes them whenever she feels like it and freezes them and like fully baked.
Idea.
And then just like zhuzhes them
idea.
in the oven. They come out of the oven hot with some butter.
I love the idea of it. I have always found it hugely exhausting and stressful. So this year I'm going to try and delegate. I have one of my sons has a girlfriend who likes to cook. I'm thinking if I have the pie crust, maybe she'll make the pie. I actually am thinking, should I order the turkey and do all the other stuff?
That's a really good idea.
Here we've been making turkey. We're all kind of sick of it already. We've been making turkey here for 3 weeks straight. And everyone's like, I just don't even want to eat. You know what I mean? The good news is we have tons of turkey stock that we get to take home. So that's nice.
Let's talk about Milk Street Thanksgiving, because I think what's so challenging, if you haven't worked in food media before, is understanding that like every year you're trying to do two impossible things. Because one, everybody wants the traditional things that you talk about, like we all do. However, you're expected to put out like something new, like every single year. I remember when I was there one year, it was like adding umami to the gravy with fish sauce was like one of the big things that we did.
I don't remember that one.
There was also, I wanted to say, like miso might have ended up in some sweet potatoes.
We have a couple of sweet potato squash recipes that have really interesting stuff in them. So that's a good one. This year, we are trying to lean on the make ahead, and you'll start hearing more about that in the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out on our site for all of these make ahead things that are coming.
So Rose, I know from my time at Milk Street that there are so many incredible holiday recipes and Thanksgiving recipes. Creating Thanksgiving recipes is always a pretty stressful but exciting time, I think, at any food media brand. So can you share a couple of the favorite recipes and then maybe a couple tips and tricks sort of from the archives of Milk Street, like things we should absolutely be bookmarking for cooking this year?
Yes, I think we have a mashed potato recipe. They're simmered in milk. That recipe was a huge hit last year. Everyone loved it. I would definitely look that one up. It's delicious and it's easy to make, but just so rich and lovely because you're actually cooking the potatoes in milk. That's a really good one. We have some really good sweet potato recipes and also squash recipes that have really interesting ingredients in them. Chili peppers or honey, things like that. Some really nice spices. So if you're looking for something that's not just mashed squash or sweet potato, we have some really nice things in that.
All right. So if someone is making Thanksgiving dinner for the first time, Rose, what are your top 3 tips? And they can be like a food tip, they can be a tablescape tip, they can be a how to not lose your damn mind tip. But if someone's just feeling like totally overwhelmed, Mom Rose, to put on her hat now and come in, tell us what to do.
I think what's more stressful for me on Thanksgiving than actually cooking the meal is your house. If you could afford to get a cleaner to come in, I was never able to do that. But if you could, I would do that. I would also set your table ahead of time. That's the thing that I would always wait till the last minute. And then I'm trying to get stuff on the table. I need to take a shower. I'm crying. It's just not a couple of days ahead, set your table. I think that's definitely something. If you can do it, definitely do it. Have all your stuff laid out. That's another thing. Like if you have a lot of people over and you're cooking something, you're like, oh, I don't have anything to put these potatoes in because you didn't drag it out of wherever. That kind of stuff, I think, makes a big difference. And then again, make ahead. If you can do your pie crusts ahead, do them ahead. Even, a lot of times I'll serve green beans. So blanch them and put them in, like I said, as a plucky baggie. And then all you have to do is finish them that day and you're not trying to have boiling water and all kinds of other things. So whatever you can do ahead, I think, cranberry sauce will last forever. So you can do that a week ahead and it'll still be really good. And sometimes, depending on what you put in it, it's better if you let it sit. I don't know how you feel about that, but those are things that are really easy. Stuffing, buy the bread you can go to all these great supermarkets now or farmers markets where they have the cubes already dried out. Are we drying bread cubes? I don't think we can do that.
Rose, I just wrote something today. This will be long past when this comes out, but I have this weird guilt problem with perfectly good convenience food at the grocery store. And I'm not
right.
It's not like I only make everything from scratch. No, oftentimes I will let the guilt roil around in my belly and then I'll order takeout. And I'm like, if I had just bought the damn cut bread or cut vegetables, I wouldn't be in this ridiculous quandary. So I think a lot of cooks feel that way. I'm curious if you feel that way. Do you ever have a hard time buying a pre-chopped vegetable or pre-whatever? Do you also beat yourself up and feel like you need to do everything? I
struggled with that forever. And then finally I came to my senses, butternut squash. I mean, we all love it, but it's really hard to cut and, to peel and cut. And you can buy it now already cut. So if you don't have time to do it, give yourself permission to do that. And again, the cubes of bread, you can go and get a bag that has a variety of these great cubes of sourdough bread. Just buy that. Are we saving our bread scraps? And no one has time for that.
No one has the time or the freezer space for that.
Or who's that? Everyone's eating the bread in my house. So then I have to go buy bread and cut it and dry it. Give yourself a break on some of that stuff. I'm totally with you on that. 100%.
Okay, so we're gonna have people set their table ahead of time. Maybe get out their Post-it notes and mark. This is where the turkey's going. This is where different stuff's going. So you're not missing anything.
I mean, that sounds kind of influencer. Now it seems like a weird influencer thing, but really, it's like a just save your sanity type of thing. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely, and you feel better because you're I can do something. Because I feel like so much of it is the stress of this work is coming and just being able to get some of that nervous energy out. With that planning, I think helps a lot.
The tradition that we do have is we go around the table and everyone says something they're thankful for. And to me, that's really what it's all about. I mean, I don't really have anything crazy creative that we do. I always feel like if you can just get everyone sitting down at the same time, that's a victory. That's a win. Because if everyone's got pants on, right? Okay, we're good. It's just the kind of thing get dressed, it's just, not in your boxer shorts. You need to have,
I remember having to get so dressed up as a kid. And now my kids will put up a fight to just not wear sweatpants. And I'm like, It's 1 year.
I know.
Put on your damn pants. Like,
Give me that. Just give me that. Yeah, no, I know.
let me look at your cute face, not in a sweatsuit for this one day.
Yeah, that would be ours. Do you have one?
No, I feel like my Thanksgivings have been so, like I said, all over the place. I think what it is now is because I worked from the age of like 18 through my 20s, I was always working. I do feel just like incredibly grateful to have the day off. I have so much appreciation and like, I know there's a lot of people that have to work on Thanksgiving, and I'm just so grateful that I don't have to work in like a hospitality role on Thanksgiving. And I really
that you did that for so many years.
It was hard, but it was also fun. I rarely do like kind of fancy dinners catered anymore, but I do have a personal chef client, and they had some people in town. And so I pulled off, like they asked if I could come and like do a serve dinner. And I was thinking back to this Thanksgiving job, and I was like, oh, that's like how I got my chops. Like the woman who I was working for had exquisite taste, was incredibly particular. But it was perfect in my 20s because I just feel like I cut my teeth, and now I can enjoy hosting so much more because of that experience. I mean, I wouldn't survive it today, especially now with like the built up exhaustion of being a mom. But yeah, it was fun. You and I both met at Milk Street, worked there together. Such an incredible place. So many amazing recipes come out of there. And so I was just sort of like reminiscing about my time there, thinking about chatting with you. What is the most challenging, frustrating recipe you've ever created for Milk Street? Because we know that they have to work and so many tests can happen. And I would love to hear a horror story.
Okay, it's always cheesecake. I'm just going to say it's always cheesecake. I've developed a lot of cheesecakes here, and cheesecake is so temperamental. Like you don't want it to crack. It has to be a certain temperature. You have to, sometimes it's in a water bath. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it depends on what you're putting in it. Are you putting a special kind of cheese in it, or are you using more cream cheese than something else? We worked on one where we actually put San Andre, kind of a triple creme cheese in it. That's a delicious cheesecake.
It's a bougie cheesecake.
Yeah, it was bougie. I mean, it was, but it's delicious. That was a really good one. We also did one that was inspired by Angie Marr that had just a ton of stuff in it. It's delicious cheesecake, but a black pepper crust. But that one, it would rise really high, and then all of a sudden it would sink, or it wouldn't brown on the top. Like Bass cheesecake, same thing, trying to get that burnished top. I think cheesecake is really difficult, but when you get it right, it's so good. So if you're looking for a cheesecake recipe, anything we've done, we've tested a million times, but I have to say it's always cheesecake. Yeah, it's cheesecake.
What is your favorite recipe that you've ever developed?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, a recent one that I just thought was, and it was actually Chris's idea, but I love this recipe because I feel like if you were going to entertain, it's just so easy. It's a creme brulee recipe where you just whisk everything together, strain it, put it in ramekins, and then you put it on a wet towel. There's no bain-marie, there's no temping the eggs, none of that. You just pour it into ramekins on a damp towel, put it in the oven, and they are perfect. Like you could double that recipe and make 8. It's no effort, and they are creamy and delicious, amazing. That's been one of my favorite ones this year. I just think I haven't entertained in a while, but I'm definitely going to pull that one out. So look for that. I think it's a really good recipe. That's one of my faves.
You're such a big baker and a good baker, and I'm not. I have such a sweet tooth, and I'm not much of a baker. I should reach for more of your recipes because I know that they will work, and that will help instill confidence in my baking, I think.
No, that one is just so easy, and you feel like a rock star because once you brulee the top, it's like you got it at a restaurant. Tried that one. I'm telling you, try it if you like creme brulee.
I am curious, Rose, what is your favorite part of your job?
The process. I mean, I love the process of cooking. I love when I'm home too. I like to shop for the ingredients. I like to research things. I like to see what works and see what doesn't. I just love the process of building a recipe from the beginning. That's really a favorite part of my job. There's a lot of note taking and that kind of thing. Not my strengths. I work really hard at that, but that's not my favorite part of the job. I like to actually cook things. That's the favorite part of my job. It's just actually being in the kitchen, cutting things, measuring things, chopping things. That's my favorite part of the job.
How has your cooking changed at home since, doing it professionally?
Well, it's funny that you say that. Now, I told you we downsized and we're empty nesters. So you eat a lot here. I mean, you've been here. You have to taste. And there's 3, 4, sometimes 5 of us doing different things. You have to taste everything. So I don't feel like cooking when I go home. I do like to cook for people when they come visit me. But a lot of times I'm doing a lot of like little charcuterie plate with a glass of wine. Like now we can do that because our kids are grown. But I think I'm smarter about the way I cook now that I've been working here, and also more interested in getting lots of flavor and texture into food. I think when my kids were younger, that wasn't something I was really thinking about, but that's what when I'm home, I think about that a little bit. But when I'm cooking now, it is kind of for a special occasion. It's not an every night thing, because a lot of times I'll just bring things home to eat because I've eaten so much during the day that I just can't really think about it.
And when you are, it can be what you and Craig are craving, right? Which is a different.
Oh, completely
I cook
different,
so
right?
differently when kids. I just went for my 40th. I went to Nantucket with a bunch of friends, and I cooked dinner for everybody one night. And they're like, "Are you sure you want to cook? Like it's your birthday." I was like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Cooking for 9 people on vacation with no like kids or timelines or whatever." I'm like, "This is a dream," and it's just such a different experience than the like nightly grind of getting everyone fed, which can be joyful too, but it's also
right. It's like trying to accommodate everybody's picky taste or something like that. Yeah, that's so funny that you say that. I always cook for my birthday too. I do that. I think I don't know. People always say that to me. You want to cook for your birthday? I'm like, yeah, actually, I do. I want what I want.
I totally do.
I'm going to make it
keep
myself.
this child busy. I'm going to cook.
Yeah,
sort of
that's
and what
great.
is when you do feel like cooking now? Like, well, I guess you said wine and charcuterie, but is there anything else that you like to cook for yourself? And I'm also thinking about listeners who maybe it is just 1 or 2 of them at home. Like, what are some of your recommendations being for just 1 or 2?
When I'm cooking for 2, I am looking for, again, things that we would really like that my kids might not. Like I was in a farmer's market recently and I found some Island Creek oysters that were in a can, and they're just like clams, but I love spaghetti alla vongole. And so I bought this beautiful can of clams that was pricey, but they had chili pepper in them, really good olive oil, made a really good pasta dish with those. And that was something like, we enjoyed that so much, but my kids would not have eaten that. But it's things like that. I'd cook a lot more fish now because my kids aren't crazy about that. I like to grill vegetables. I'll grill eggplant and kind of make a parm out of grilled eggplant slices instead of something that's breaded, those kinds of things. I mean, I do, like you said, you can pick kind of what you want. The other night we saw a nice steak. We were out at Italy and we bought that and grilled it. I do love pasta, so I do a fair amount of that.
A lot of people would be really envious or really aspire to your kind of empty nester life. I hear you talking about, getting tinned fish and steaks at Italy and just cooking them up for you and your husband. And for people who might be considering like a second act and going back to work if after a hiatus for raising children or whatever, what is some of your advice for somebody who's hearing about what your life looks like now and thinking like, oh, could I do something like that?
Don't be afraid and ask for what you want. If you think you'd be good at something or you're interested in a career, find some people who do that and meet with them, talk to them, see if you can get in the door somehow. And maybe it's not a full-time thing. Maybe it's just part-time. But, if there's something that you're really interested in, I say go for it. And I'm not the kind of person who wants to play golf all day. It's not my thing. So I love to work. I've always been a worker bee. So I'll probably work until, I don't know. But I love it. So if you like to be busy and you like to work, I think people are always looking for someone who's interested to help out or, even if it's a volunteer situation, I say, get out there, do it. And also makes your life more interesting, I think. You have something to talk about.
Did you start as a volunteer at Milk Street?
I did. I started as a volunteer.
So that can be a great way, I feel like, to build confidence and make connections and see if something is right for you. Because I think that's the fear for a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, what if it's like not right for me?
Right. If you volunteer, you're not they don't lose anything, you don't lose anything. But that's how this started for me. And, even if you're a young person, if there's something you're interested in, you could volunteer a night a week or something. Maybe you'll find out you want to switch careers or something like that. It's never over. I think I have young 30-year-olds who are just thinking like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And, I just think, well, you got a lot of life. I always say to my kids, life is long if you're lucky. So, try different things, make the most of it. You don't have to decide what you're going to do when you're 20. It's not always the case that it'll work out that way.
Especially now, I feel like people, it's so much less likely that you're going to join some job or company or firm and stay there for like your whole career. Like that's so not the case, I think, for most people entering the workforce now. So you kind of just have to get out there and...
Yeah, no, it's true. I think for some people, I feel a little sad that they don't have the opportunity to do that. Because I think there are people who would like to be able to join a company or have a career that you could just stick with it. But I think now I think it's hard to do that. So you just have to be open to whatever's out there.
You just made me feel so good, like I said, when I had a little baby and was kind of a new mom. I'm trying to think of what because I swear I like hear your voice sometimes saying like specific stuff. You just be like, get out of here. Like, you're fine. Like, you're doing great.
Yeah.
And Jackie and I, my old business partner, would talk about things that you said a lot. But what advice do you have to young parents who are trying to feed their kids and feeling just like really overwhelmed and stressed out about it? And it can be practical advice or mindset advice.
I think sometimes you feel like you're not going to survive, but you will. So just realize every phase is short-lived, and you can probably see that now. Like when they're infants, you just think, oh gosh, I can't, I'm not sleeping, I feel awful. But then they start to walk and talk and you're like, okay, well, this is a little easier. And then sports kick in and things like that. For feeding kids, I would just say, keep it simple. If you roast a chicken, then you can do some things with it later in the week, throw it in a soup, or you can make tacos out of it, or don't try to do anything too crazy because you just don't have time for that. Stick with a couple of basic things. If you know your kids like broccoli, keep it on rotation. And again, when you have kids, they like broccoli one week, they don't like it another week. But, I would just say try and keep it simple. I love to roast things like vegetables in the oven. That's really easy. Anything you can throw in a sheet pan, certainly. At Milk Street, we have a lot of great sheet pan recipes, but those were always good if you have kids. Soup, I think, is a great one because you can make a lot of it and then you can use it again. So, just try to think of things that are kind of simple, but that you think everybody's going to like, and then break them down into something else if you have to. And don't be too hard on yourself. If you have to order pizza a couple of nights a week, do it. Your kids are going to survive. I can attest to that. They're all alive and they're all fine.
I think people can make feeding kids like such a high stakes thing now. I just see on the internet, and I just honestly believe that it's too much pressure on people. And like generally, like we're lucky that we, have the means to feed our kids and they're generally healthy. And of course, I would like them to eat more vegetables than they do. But I'm just not buying that it's as high stakes as we're made to feel that it is.
No, I mean, look, you might have that kid who eats 3 things for 5 years. Eventually, they'll eat something else. Like, this is the thing. It's like when people said, oh, don't let them sleep in your bed. I mean, at some point, they're going to not want to do that. Like, don't worry about it.
For the busy brain portion, I always ask 2 questions. And one is, how do you spark creativity in the kitchen? And the second one is, how do you calm the chaos? And the chaos can be in your brain or physical chaos around you. But for people with ADHD, the 2 big pieces of it tend to be like sparking the dopamine through creativity so that you can be motivated to do the thing, but then like calming the swirly thoughts.
So for the dopamine, I think I get a lot of inspiration. I mean, I will say that is the thing about something like Instagram. I do get a lot of inspiration from following other chefs and seeing what they're doing. And you do see a lot of exciting things. I don't know if you feel like that, but I get a lot of inspiration from other people. And I think without that tool, it would have been harder to do that. It was certainly magazines or cookbooks, things like that. And just kind of getting out and going to different places to shop. Or, like I said, I love the process of making food. And part of that is shopping for it and just going to different, maybe switching up the market that I go to and finding something that wasn't available somewhere else. Or, if you go somewhere and there's 10 different kinds of apples, you think, oh, maybe I do something with a lot of apples for this recipe, or try a different apple, or you might see a vegetable that you aren't used to cooking with. I find a lot of inspiration from that kind of thing. One of the things I've been doing lately is walking a lot. Like, I just kind of take myself out of the situation and go outside and walk. That really helps me. And the other thing is just shutting off everything but maybe music or something. Definitely turning off devices or background noise. I used to be a person who loved to have a lot of background noise. I felt like I couldn't do anything without it. And now I'm finding that it makes me anxious if there's too much of that. So I have been trying to be quieter and be more intentional about how I move my body, or how I get out and do things, or just quieting things down, whether it's listening to just soft music in the background instead of a TV.
Absolutely. Well, Rose, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on, talk about, brag about?
No, I think that's it. I want to thank you so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for coming. I look forward to seeing you in real life. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to 177milkstreet.com and look at all your recipes and watch some of your clips on YouTube. Where else can we find you, Rose? Bakes at Instagram,
yes,
on Instagram, is that right?
At Sweet Rose Bakes on Instagram, yes.
Well, I hope that you have a lovely Thanksgiving, Rose, and thank you for all of the tips and the good chat. And yeah, have a happy holiday. See you soon.
And to you. Thank you, Catherine.
And you, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Rose, and that you're feeling calm and inspired and ready to enjoy whatever the holiday season has in store for us. I do have a favor to ask you before you go. If you could take a minute and rate and review Not From Concentrate wherever you get your podcasts, it really helps people find our show. And if you liked today's episode, please take a moment and share it with a food-loving, busy-brained friend. All right, I'll see you next time.
This could happen.